Hey everyone, Brendan Snyder here. How are you? Thanks so much for joining me and welcome to another episode of New Music Finds, where I like to collect together all the stuff that I've purchased over the past, present it to you, give you a little bit of background on why I bought it, what it is, that sort of stuff. And boy, do I have a lot of stuff. This past week, if you don't already know, was my birthday. So of course I treated myself and I hit up a number of different record stores and I just made some killer scores. So I have 35 things to run through with you. I've got CDs, LPs, box sets, you name it, it's in here. So a lot of cool things to go through with you guys. We'll dive into it here in just a bit. But if you are new to my channel and you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please do. Leave a comment, hit like, all those things do help support my channel. And don't forget to turn on notifications so you can stay up to date on everything going on in the world of music, just like this, with a video about all the new things I've picked up, maybe turn you on to something too. So I always like to start with new releases, and the big one that was out this past week, and it seems like a lot of you guys agree with me. I have done a full review on the brand new Deep Purple album, Equals One, and it seems to be a resounding yes that this album sounds very classic, like a throwback to the 70s. People are digging it. In fact, out of all the comments that different viewers and subscribers and people left on the review that I did, I really think there was only about like 2 or so that were negative, and nobody trashed it. Some people said it wasn't very memorable, or they liked the singles but nothing else. But almost everyone went crazy for this thing. So if you're on the fence and you haven't already checked it out, check out the brand new Deep Purple Equals One album. This is the first new album with Simon McBride on guitar, and boy, he brings the guitar sound back. It is right there in your face. That's why I say this is like a throwback to the 70s, a good hard rock Deep Purple album. Less of the proggy stuff, more of the rock stuff on this one. So that's cool. And like I said, I have done a full review of it, so link will be in the description for that. Now, this one, while you guys can't go pick this up, I have this. And so it was new for me, and I have done a full review. You've seen it, but the brand new Tramp, Songs of White Lion 2. So there's already a volume of this that came out last year, 2023, where it covered like the hits and that sort of stuff. And if you didn't already see my interview with Tramp, and I asked him about the song selection of this, I thought it was just sort of, it's, this song was a hit over here or whatever, how he might have picked it. And he actually said no. The way he chose these songs, the deeper cuts on here, was actually more about the way he would have liked to have made White Lion albums with that deeper, darker sound, lyrical content, all of that sort of stuff. So the songs for this are those songs. So this right here kind of represents where Tramp wanted the band to be, but of course, record label and people, they want the hits and that sort of stuff. And so those other songs were also part of it, and that's why we got the albums we did. But very interesting to hear why and how he picked the songs for this release here, and that it was more than just say one song was big hit in Japan, but not in the US, or this one was a big hit in the Philippines, but not here, that kind of stuff. Anyway, all very cool. Great new album, August 23rd for you guys. Sorry you have to wait for it. I've got mine and I'm loving it. And also got the vinyl along with it. So got to have both of these, and awesome. So moving on. Former Iron Maiden frontman Paul Di'Anno put out Paul Di'Anno's Warhorse, their debut album. He's got 2 Croatian musicians, I believe that's where they're from, backing him up. I can't pronounce their names, otherwise I would tell you who they were, but I don't know them from anything other than he met them. And these guys wrote everything. He's just singing. Paul Di'Anno is just singing. I'm a little bummed by that. Doesn't seem to have been more collaboration in it, but it does sound good. Paul Di'Anno's voice is a little bit aged more, but then he always sang kind of gravelly, so it does still sound like Paul Di'Anno, but obviously a bit older here. Anyways, if you're a fan of those first 2 Iron Maiden albums and you're a fan of Paul Di'Anno, there's something new out there for you, so that's always nice. This was actually a reissue, but Vinnie Moore album called Soul Shifter that came out a number of years back. In fact, I'll see if the date's on here. It says 2019. Went out of print. It's now back in print. So Vinnie Moore being guitar player from UFO, and unfortunately, UFO is now considered done and over with. Phil Mogg has moved on with his new project, Phil Mogg's Motel. They've got a brand new album coming out soon. But Vinnie Moore, not exactly sure where he is going to land, but hopefully continue doing some solo work. I'd love for him to turn up another band because he's just a phenomenal guitar player. This one was really cool. I didn't know this was coming out until I put together my What Just Dropped episode and found that Eric Martin Band, Sucker for a Pretty Face, the original sessions. So if you don't know, if you know about Eric Martin Band, Eric Martin had an album out in 1983. It also featured Troy Luccketta from Tesla on drums. So you had those two guys. One of the guitar players I know went on to another band as well. But Eric Martin, and they made an album, came out in 83, didn't do a whole lot of anything, and the band decided to part ways, and Eric Martin became a solo artist. And later, of course, joins Mr. Big, and the rest is history. But his first thing out there was Eric Martin Band, and there's an album called Sucker for a Pretty Face, and you can get that. Rock Candy Records has reissued it. But here is the original session. So they went in, they recorded the original sessions, which actually has 6 or 7 additional tracks. Total of 16 tracks were recorded. And when signed to Elektra, they picked 8 or 9 of them and re-recorded them and then added in 2 new songs that were not part of the sessions. That became the album. So this actually has a different feel to it. It's really, really cool. And if you're a fan of Mr. Big and Eric Martin like I am, and the week before we had the brand new Mr. Big, now I got this. It was just so cool to have it back to back because I'm on this Mr. Big kick right now. And anything with Eric Martin is great. So when I just decided to happenstance, try to Google and search if there was anything out there that I didn't already own by Eric Martin, and this popped up, and I saw that it was coming out within like a couple days of my search, so I got it. That was very cool. And then this one here, Chris Slade Timeline. So Chris Slade, most people, I mean, me, myself at least, know him as the drummer for AC/DC on the Razor's Edge album, 1990-91 era. Thunderstruck, certainly, he was the bald guy banging the drums, right? He played in a lot of different bands. He was in Manfred Mann's Earth Band. He was in Asia. He was in Uriah Heep. Probably in a lot of different things. Besides that, those are the ones that are coming to mind. And so he, in 2012, I think it is, formed the Chris Slade Timeline to go out and play those songs. But he kept getting asked about recording original material. So lo and behold, this album, it is a 2-disc album. So the first disc is all original songs written, a lot of them written by Chris Slade and played by the band. And then the other disc in here are re-recordings of songs that he was part of. So it actually has him doing The Razor's Edge, Thunderstruck, and Big Gun, all from his time while he was in AC/DC. It's got Free, originally done by Asia when he was part of the band, Blinded by the Light, the Manfred Mann Earth Band song that was so popular, July Morning, which is a Uriah Heep song on here. And it actually finishes off with 2 additional AC/DC songs, Hell's Bells and High Voltage, which of course he played a lot, but was not part of the original recording of those. I would have been okay without those 2 songs, but he is so ingrained in being part of AC/DC. Having done, the last tour when Phil Rudd was not going to be part of that, he stepped in, became the drummer again. So he's actually been part of their legacy and history a number of times. All right. So you saw from my birthday visit to Sound Exchange, I got some really cool things. So I'll tool through this one pretty fast. But I was at Sound Exchange. I got this Mr. Big live Raw Like Sushi EP, 6 tracks, but it's actually 30 minutes long. So it's basically the length of some albums. So it's a good length of time to listen to. Atlantic Records, it's got 6 live tracks. It was a Japanese only release. And they recorded it while they were opening for Rush on the Presto tour. It's got a really cool sound. I like it, man. The crowd was great for that. And then I picked up another live album, Steve Hackett, simply called Live, 1992. But what I found out was it's recorded live in front of a TV audience, so there's no noise during the performance and then just the clapping at the end. And then they fade out and they do it again. So it was actually, I think it was recorded at like 2 locations, but it ended up making this one really good. And I'm all the time saying I hate live albums, I hate live albums. And yes, I sometimes do. This was the very one last thing that I did not own by Mr. Big. So I'm filling in the gap, and I do enjoy it, but that's usually when live albums get bought by me, after I bought all the studio, all the box sets, all the deluxe editions. And then the last thing that's available, and I want some more of something, and I buy the best ofs or the live albums. I don't have everything by Steve Hackett, but I do like this era of his performance and what he was writing, so I was intrigued by it. And I have to say, because they're recorded on a soundstage, I actually enjoy the live feeling without all the crowd noise, and then it just comes in at the end, and that's fine by me. And then found this Rod Stewart self-titled album, 1986. I had a paper copy of this, one of those 5 CD bundles that comes in a little box that you can get, but I couldn't find a jewel case, a hard copy of it, and it just, for whatever reason, clicked with me. I've really, really enjoyed this album, and I didn't know it at the time, but it's produced by Bob Ezrin, which makes a lot of sense to me. I tend to like a lot of his stuff. And so I was glad to find a used copy of that. And then I found 2 Country Joe McDonald from Country Joe and the Fish, but these were solo albums. This was 80 or 81. And I had found this one used, and then I picked this one up. I didn't realize it was a best of when I was grabbing it, called Classics. So that actually turned out to be good, because it was like later era stuff from like the 70s on up through the early 80s on here, and turned out to be the stuff that I like. When I found it and I was streaming it, it was listed as one of his regular albums. It was not down in the compilation section. So I thought it was just called that, but in fact, no, it is actually a best of, and they had it misfiled. But 2 Country Joe McDonald albums, so that's interesting, diving into that. And then I found the very first Yardbirds album called 5 Live Yardbirds. I've been missing. It's hard to come by. Actually, really, any of their stuff is, of those early albums at least. This was a Rhino Records release or reissue of it. So I got that. Now, some of the cool things that I got where I really kind of splurged was this Led Zeppelin box. CDs, they're all housed like this. They're all Japanese mini sleeve, LP replica editions, but they do the original art that was here done with the blue, as well as providing you with the later era, the orange that we all know, the UK edition of this. And so each of these albums, whatever was the special thing, the die cut in these is actually here. Let me just see what else we got. We got, the sleeves. So some of this has been redone now on the newer versions that are out that have the 2 CD, and I have those too, but this is the single disc edition. And so what sold me on this was In Through the Outdoor. Once you take it out of the paper bag, you have art. But apparently at the time, there were 5 alternate album covers, and they include all of them here in this. And it just was one of those things that was like, wow, I have all the different covers that were available that you could try to collect on vinyl, that apparently is a very difficult thing to do. But here it was that I could have all of these on CD, in a nice little box like this with the special artwork replicating it. And so I just had to have it. And this was something that Anthony found somebody brought in, and then he saved it for me, and I loved that aspect of it too. I finally decided to pick this up, Whitesnake Unzipped. And it's a box set, and I thought, man, why? It's a brand new album. Why would they be releasing an entire box set already? It kind of seems crazy, but it was subtitled Acoustic Adventures, Unplugged in the Studio and on Stage, 1997 to 2015. And they just put it on the side, but I kind of feel like they probably should have had the Unzipped album in it, and instead the box set was called just simply Acoustic Adventures, because that's really what this is. So I bought the album, standalone jewel case copy of it, because I already owned what was on the 2 CD edition, Starkers in Tokyo 1997. It was a Japanese-only unplugged album with Adrian Vandenberg and David Coverdale. And so I was like, I don't really want to replicate what I've already got. So it kind of steered clear of this. And what really made me decide to get it was CD5, Up Close and Personal, and its previously unreleased acoustic demo ideas. And some of these are fully fleshed out, and some of them are just David Coverdale and an acoustic guitar. Maybe he's playing with Adrian. Adrian's on the guitar, but there's 25 different sketch ideas in here that really let you hear some cool stuff that's never been released. Then there's also what's called Snakeskin Boots Starkers in Europe, which are all these acoustic performances of a few tracks here, a few tracks there that they did across Europe. And then one on here called More Starkers, which is actually what I really enjoyed, because there's these rehearsal performances that Doug Aldridge and David Coverdale did that are really amazing, and those appear on here. So this box set, which has 5 CDs and 1 DVD in here, turned out to, in the end of the day, to be really cool. I'm kind of glad I waited till I was in a Whitesnake mood for something, but picking this up, and like I said, I was doing some splurging for my birthday, so I got those things. One of the other things, 2 of the other things actually that I picked up in this as part of that as well was the Stevie Nicks Rarities 81 to 83 LP that was put out for Record Store Day in 2017. And Anthony had a sealed copy of this that somebody brought in, sold to him, and he put out. And so I've been eyeing this for a while, and it's one of those things that it's not going to get another release. And so I finally decided to just splurge and buy it, even though obviously I prefer everything on CD when I can. And then I picked up this Twisted Sister Come Out and Play LP, because this part of it here opens and it's never been bent along here. So you can only open it a little bit because it's never been used. So an album that has had that for so long and it's never been bent or creased by anyone since it came out. I think the album came out in 85. Just kind of boggles my mind that near 40 years on, I could get such a clean, good copy of it that I just needed to put it into the collection for that reason. All right, so I also made a trip to Princeton, New Jersey, and I found some cool things there. I found this Victory album, Culture Killed the Native, and this album was 1989, and I wasn't expecting much. I had this on cassette, but for whatever reason, I don't really remember it, but I must have enjoyed it enough to have bought it on cassette, so I decided to buy it on CD. And I popped it in, and it was so freaking good. I've just gone off on a Victory kick now, and I had to dig through my collection because I ended up having 3 albums of theirs in the collection, but I thought I had more and I didn't. So it's been nice because I've been able to fill stuff in. Plus, the band has made a brand new album, and that's coming up in the next few weeks or so, maybe a month. It's coming out. And so me being as excited as I am right now for Victory is going to make getting that new release just that much better. So had that. That was great. If you don't know Victory, Victory has Herman Frank, guitar player from Accept, in that band. That was kind of their big claim to fame. Sort of thing. There's been other famous guys that come through the ranks. Certainly their bass player, can't remember his name, something Newton. Let me find it real quick so I can tell you guys. Tommy Newton. Well, Tommy Newton on guitar, sorry, not bass. But Tommy Newton also has played with a lot of different bands. I've seen his name pop up in places, so I'm confusing. There is a Newton who's on bass, but this is Tommy Newton. All right, I found this one. Marillion, Holidays in Eden. And I thought I owned this album, but turns out I did not. I thought maybe I had like a Steven Wilson remix or something or whatever, so I bought this one, the regular one that came out on IRS, going back, an original release of it. And I really liked it. And I kind of found out why, because this was the album where they were basically pushed in the direction of doing a pop album and not a progressive rock album. And I like it. I love cheesy 80s stuff. I don't think it's cheesy, but I like that sort of stuff. And this was a record, I think, from 1991, and just really enjoyed it. And now I'm actually trying to track down whether or not there's a box set or a deluxe edition or something like that. I believe that there is, so I'm going to be searching that out and then probably adding that to the collection. Slade, Whatever Happened To. Found a copy of this. I love Slade. I'm just slowly building the collection. I've got the classic era, but they did stuff well into the mid 80s before they hung it up for good. And then there was a Slade 2, and I actually own those albums already as well. But I'm going back, I'm filling in the later day era stuff. Picked this one up because of the Christian rock stuff, DeGarmo and Key. It's got more of a journey flavor to it, a bit more overt in the lyrics in terms of it being Christian. It's kind of a little more in your face and maybe not necessarily something that I would jump to, but I'm glad to have one in the collection, and we'll see, when I'm in the mood for this, whether or not I will be able to transition into it, but it's a little bit more in your face than, say, Petra, Holy Soldier, one of those other ones that I was talking about in previous weeks. Picked up a Bananarama album. I believe it's their second album. Can't tell what the name of it is because whatever it is not made readily available. Maybe it is self-titled, but I don't think that it is. I think it does have a name. Could be completely wrong. Anyway, picked it up. It does not have the big hit Venus on it, which is actually fine by me because that's the only thing I knew and I never really cared for it. But I checked this out and really enjoyed it in the first opening track, Cruel Summer. Don't know if that was a hit or not, but it sounds like it was a hit. I heard it and I said, I think I might know this. And if I don't, it's just one of those songs that's like instantly recognizable because it is so good. Either way, picked up some Bananarama. That's the first of it in my collection. Picked up some XTC, 1977 to 1982, so this little 5-year stint of the band, and thought I would dive into them a bit more. I had done a discussion topic on Sea of Tranquility with Pete Pardo, and a question of whether they were prog or not, and certainly some of their later day era stuff is, or I would consider prog. This early stuff to me is post-punk, new wave, that sort of stuff, so my initial gut reaction is no, they are not, but that was a whole debate we had across the channel. You guys can weigh in if you want, if XTC is considered prog, post-punk, what are they? I'd be curious to know your thoughts on it. And then I found 4 Derek Sherinian albums, of course, keyboardist with Dream Theater for a period of time, but he's worked with, I think he's worked with Ozzy, but he's worked with so many different musicians, a lot of side projects, like Platypus, that he did with Ty Tabor from King's X, and John Myung, bass player from Dream Theater, and I forget who the other person involved was. I think it was Rod Morgenstein from Winger. So cool stuff, but I got 4 albums. I also got Inertia, and I got Mythology, and then these later ones, he has cool guitar players. He has like Steve Stevens from Billy Idol, Steve Lukather of Toto, Zakk Wylde from Ozzy Osbourne, Simon Phillips, drummer from Toto, Black Utopia, the same thing. He brings in a lot of guests on this one. Al Di Meola's on this one, Yngwie Malmsteen, Tony Franklin, Billy Sheehan on bass. And then I found the debut album from Government Mule, which I had not heard since the maybe late 90s, so 25 plus years ago or so, and I've been hunting and hunting and hunting for it, and was so glad to finally find a copy. And it was a used copy that was only $5, $5.99 maybe, but what a good deal it was to get that and have that. So that was a great visit to the record store that I was doing for my birthday as well. I was trying to hit up all these different places. I got some stuff that came in the mail too. Eyes. So you guys know that I had been on a Jeff Scott Soto kick, and I finally decided to pay a pretty penny to get this because it's just so hard to come by. But I got a pretty good deal on this. I waited until I hunted one down, the right one, and got it. So yeah, Jeff Scott Soto, his first band. This is 1990. I would classify it as glam metal. And then from this, he goes on to do the other projects and stuff like Talisman and Takara. And this was after Yngwie Malmsteen. But yeah, just enjoying filling in the gaps and getting stuff like that. Picked up a solo album from Freddie Kersey, who was part of Sheriff, who's the frontman, but also later part of Alias. Both bands having big hits, one hit, like ballad type hit. This is Dreamer's Road. And I expected a lot more from this, but it's very poppy sounding. It's not really at all like Sheriff or alias. So I'm going to save it. Maybe I'll get into it. I'm glad to have it because I didn't even know he had a solo record out. So I was completely shocked when I was reading, on Wikipedia and saw that and said, well, I got to track it down. And I didn't pay very much to get a hold of it. So definitely a little too poppy for me at the moment. But my musical taste, I bought some Bananarama, so you know that I love the cheesy poppy 80s stuff. I also love glam metal. I love heavy metal. I love thrash metal. I don't get into death metal. I love prog. I love alternative rock. I love punk. I love AOR, melodic rock. So my tastes are really quite wide. And, if I get something in the mail and it doesn't quite jive, I just put it aside. I'm not going to hate it. I know there'll be a point where that is going to be the perfect album. I'm going to be talking to you guys and I'm going to be saying, I don't know what I was thinking, but I'm glad I hung on to it. All right. And the other thing I picked up and ended up ordering was I found there was Universal Japan, which I've talked about, has done these reissues of a lot of glam metal, a lot of things out of the 80s, Japanese editions, but they're available domestically here in the US. And I found China, their 1991 album that was called Go All the Way. I think they were a Swedish band that chose to call themselves China. Kind of a weird thing. Today, I don't know if you could get away with that. It'd be misappropriation of a name or something, I'm quite sure. But anyways, they replicate the Japanese edition and then they sell them for like $12.99, $14.99, at least on Amazon. And I decided, I've heard about China over the years, never really clicked with me. I listened to something, I decided I liked the sound of this one from 1991 best, and I got it, put it in the collection. I'm going to enjoy it with those albums that I showed you last week, like Treat, but there's numerous ones like that I've picked up over the time from Magnum and albums that were out of print. And so Universal Japan, you can go on Amazon and literally type in Universal Japan CD. Type that in the search and hit enter, and you'll get all the albums that have been reissued that are available right now. And that's just how I find these. And every so often I do a search and I see that some more have been released and I add them to the collection. All right. And I actually just getting back from hitting up Sound Exchange again, and I picked up a couple more things. I did one of Anthony's, buy 5 get 2, or buy 3 get 2 free kind of a deal. So I found this 707, an anthology, still sealed, which was nice. So I'm going to enjoy this. I don't know what's going to be on this, and I know it had different members. Todd Howarth was one of the members. I don't know if he was always there, but at one point he goes on to Ace Frehley's Comet project, and at one time Kevin Chalfant was the vocalist, and he would later sing for The Storm with Greg Raleigh. So 707 has always been floating around. I have Megaforce, that album from a Rock Candy Records reissue, but I wanted to know more about the band. So this is looks to be a 14-track compilation, yeah, pick this up. Even though it doesn't have great art, I kind of think it's a little cheesy, but okay. And then I found these and I just thought, hey, let me see what this is all about. I picked up 2 Jerry Harrison solo albums, starting with, it's Jerry Harrison's Casual Gods is the name of it. Because this one also says it, Jerry Harrison's Casual Gods, but this is Walk on Water, and I guess this is the self-titled, and I don't know if they have more than 2 albums, but Anthony looked up, they're out of print. This was 87, and this was maybe 1990. A little hard to read the dates on the back of these things. Unfortunately, I'm gonna need glasses soon. I've had 20/20 vision my whole life, but I'm getting to the point I can't read the fine print without a lot of light. That's what happens. I just turned 48, so I guess that's where we all go eventually. But so you may see that change on me. Anyway, Talking Heads, Jerry Harrison doing some solo work, so I decided to pick that up. I do love the Talking Heads. That's just a whole nother thing out there that I love. And I've got all the David Byrne stuff, and I've got the Tom Tom Club and some of the other projects and things, but I didn't have any Jerry Harrison solos, so gonna go for that. And then I found this, which was really, really cool. Super Tramp, and this is called Slow Motion. It's their final album from 2002, and most people don't even know about it because it was a website-only release, and I think It was even like a fan club only kind of a thing because very, very few copies were made of this. They were not sold in the store. There was no like label behind it or anything. And maybe it got released, later by some European companies because I want to say this even says EMI. It's a little hard to read. I need that bright light right now. But I looked it up online, and at least the story behind it is that it was an internet-only release. But final Supertramp album from 2002. I mean, at this point, it's been 22 years. They haven't done anything, so I don't think anything is going to happen at this point. But yeah, man, we just cruised through in 30 minutes, 35 things. Sorry it took so long to get through all that. Hopefully it was still interesting and you enjoyed seeing the stuff, even though there was a couple episodes out there that did show some of it in advance. There was more in here. There always is. Just for those of you tuning in, you don't watch a lot of these maybe. Even though some stuff gets showed throughout the week, there's always more stuff that I pick up that gets shown here. Plus, at least with this, I can give you my feedback on what I think of the album. So even if I show you when I just buy it, I oftentimes haven't heard it. So really the whole point of this is to see all the deep dive stuff, to see the totality, and on the stuff you may have already seen to hear me say something new or different in terms of my interpretation of it. But I try to give you guys a lot of cool info on all of this stuff, and I hope you appreciate it, and I hope it goes, in and you can use it to some degree at some point, whether it just helps you choose what to buy or what to listen to. But that is the point, at least for all the information I give you guys. So, all right, everyone. Take care, have a good one, and for all those people that wished me a happy birthday, I do want to take just a moment to say thank you very much. I do really appreciate it. Even if I didn't reply to all of them, I tried to reply to everybody. I'm sure there's some out there that got lost within the shuffle of things, but I really did appreciate all you guys reaching out and wishing me a happy birthday. I did have a great birthday in part because of you guys. All right, see you later, everyone. Bye-bye.